Euro 2024 had a theme throughout its entire tournament: perfection. We had perfect matches like Georgia versus Turkey, perfect goals like Lamine Yamal's strike that earned goal of the tournament, England losing in the final that led to Southgate stepping down, which seems perfect for quite literally everyone involved. Those things, however, are subjective, and you could argue whether or not those things are indeed actually perfect. What you cannot argue is the perfection of Spain, becoming the first country to win all 7 matches at the Euros and holding the top spot for the most Euro titles in the process. What's interesting is that just 18 months ago, people were celebrating Spain crashing out of the World Cup, not just because the underdog Morocco beat them, but because people wanted to see them lose. Instead of death by 1,000 cuts, they implemented death by 1,000 passes, which was somehow worse. Compare that to now, when people were celebrating Spain winning. Again, not just because it meant England would lose, but because most thought Spain were the best and the most entertaining country. I mean, how many tweets did we see that said Spain were deserved winners? In just 18 months, Spain managed to go from football pariahs to football perfectionists. Let's talk about that. Now, Spain had arguably the most dominant era in world football from 2008 to 2012, winning 2 Euros and a World Cup in that 4-year span. The squad was dazzling with talent, from the Barcelona midfield trio to some Real Madrid starlets in the back. However, that time period quickly ended as they were bounced from the 2014 World Cup in the group stages and exited 3 of the next 4 international tournaments in the round of 16, including that disappointing loss against Morocco in the 2022 World Cup. Now, at that point, the Spanish Federation knew it was time to switch something up, so they decided it was time to part ways with then manager and the Spanish version of Jose Mourinho, Luis Enrique, and hired from within their own camp, putting Luis de la Fuente in charge. Now, if you didn't know who this guy was before he took over in Spain, that's understandable, and considering his horrific record managing at a few La Liga clubs, I bet De La Fuente himself would be happy that you didn't know him either. For over the past decade, he has worked within the Spanish national team system, managing the under-19s, under-21s, and under-23s before taking over the actual national team in 2022. In those stints, he actually managed to win the under-19 and the under-21 versions of the Euros, while also getting a silver medal at the 2020 Olympics with the under-23s. So it's safe to say that maybe he progressed as a manager from his early days. Like, he only lasted 3 months at Alaves, my god. Now, this guy has been a breath of fresh air for the Spanish national team, using some of the weapons at his disposal while still trying to keep the national identity. Spain still looked to use those technical players and dominate possession, as they had the 3rd highest overall at the Euros, but the fact that they aren't first with like over 75% possession says a lot. I mean, remember when they lost to Spain with 83% of the ball? Yeah, they aren't doing that garbage anymore. Instead, as mentioned before, De La Fuente is using the players at his disposal, namely the wingers Nico Williams and Lamine Yamal. In the past, Spain would consistently use many midfielders to utilize their tiki-taka style, like having Iniesta on one of the wings, and routinely having Fabregas come into play as a false 9. These teams would be very rarely crossing the ball as well, as the Euro 2024 squad had the 2nd highest crossing percentage since 2006. At that time, it was all about tiring out the opposition and maintaining possession. Again, death by 1,000 passes. In the present day, however, along with the technical midfield that they're used to having, they also have wingers who can attack 1v1. This is why their crossing frequency has increased so dramatically. With these quick wingers who are able to beat virtually anyone, that allows more players to attack the space in the box. What we would see so often is Yamal beating a defender, Morata dragging defenders away with his good positioning, something he's always had despite his lack of finishing, and midfielders putting the ball in the back of the net. This is why Yamal led the squad and the Euros with assists, while the Spanish midfielders led the squad with goals. And make no mistake, Nico Williams was just as deadly on the other side, consistently providing similar passages of play and even having more expected assists than Yamal. And all of this came from De La Fuente, who understood the quality and the type of people in his squad, while also maybe not being bogged down by the traditional Spanish style of play from previous managers. All of this culminated in La Roja's 4th Euro title. But they had to go through hell to get it, like holy god. Now I mentioned before that people noted Spain was the best performing team. However, they also had the most difficult path to the final as well. Now their group admittedly wasn't as difficult as it looked on paper. The reigning champions Italy didn't look nearly as good compared to their 2021 Euro winning counterparts, and Croatia were just flat out washed, missing numerous chances and conceding a fair amount of goals with a supposedly good defense. Hell, Albania held their own against both of them. But Spain did not hold back, and they took advantage of these two weakened countries, thrashing Croatia 3-0 and fully dominating Italy 1-0. Against Albania, they were already guaranteed first in their group and naturally decided to rotate virtually their entire squad, and still easily won 1-0. And despite playing two countries past their prime, it's still incredibly impressive conceding 0 goals in the group stage and getting 3 wins, especially against said countries who have the quality to beat anyone on their day. Their tremendous group stage effort was just a warm-up, however, as they were placed in the you and the horse you rode in on side of the bracket. We're talking France, Belgium, Germany, Denmark, Portugal. England's path was the definition of Mickey Mouse and they blew it. Who else is surprised? However, Spain took this challenge head on, and in the round of 16, they crushed the hopes of Georgians everywhere by coming back and thoroughly beating them 4-1. That's actually a tough win though. Georgia won the national title in 2023. Like they're actually pretty good. Their next 3 matches were even harder than that though, because they actually had to play full-on countries rather than just a state in the US. The quarterfinal game against Germany was seen as the real final because these two were easily the best 2 countries of the tournament, and it's a shame we had to see this matchup so early. And for Spain, it was the one match where they were not in complete control and arguably seen as second best. But as Johan Cruyff put it, to win, you have to score 1 more goal than your opponent. That's a real quote, apparently. And score 1 more goal than their opponent they did, with a beautiful header from Moreno in the dying minutes of extra time, after Germany squandered multiple chances to put the ball in the net. I guess they never heard of that Cruyff quote. In the semi-final, they met France, perhaps the strongest team on paper in the entire tournament, featuring Mbappe in his Batman era. But little did Batman know that his kid rival from Barcelona would produce the goal of the tournament with an outrageous screamer from outside the box. This dude just turned 17. He needs to be studying calculus. A great goal by Dani Olmo featuring technical skill that would make Xavi and Iniesta proud would prove to be the difference and put Spain in the final against England. And yeah, like besides a little chaos in the 90th minute, Spain pretty much had it covered. I mean, I did say like they were on the harder side of the bracket. Meanwhile, England needed a literal bike to save them against Slovakia. Let's be real, Spain were always the favorites here. Now, it takes a lot for virtually everyone to agree on something, especially on football Twitter, typically only seen when people are berating some form of racism. Looking at you right now, Como. But this Spanish side seems to have pretty much every single person in agreement. They deserved to win the Euros. 7 wins in 7 matches, attacking football, an extremely tough path to the final, a literal child helping produce the goods against grown men. I mean, this team had it all. This team showed that football can still occasionally win, and even deservingly so. Of their 7 wins, 4 of them came against countries in the top 10, and another was against Germany, the second best performing squad and the hosts of the actual tournament. I know rankings don't mean a lot, but like still, this is insane. Fair play to Luis de la Fuente and fair play to the entire Spanish squad. They rolled this tournament in a way that I don't think I've ever seen happen at an international competition. Also, I just moved, so that's why there's like nothing behind me, so